Let me enlighten you. If you are using a pillowcase for your reclaim, you're doing way too much. I always go on about this. Something that I really truly believe in my heart of hearts, in my soul, is that we as makers have a responsibility to not put crap out into the world. We have a responsibility to make things that have value, be it value in that you really like it or like monetary value, you're going to sell it, whatever it is. It has to be something that actually has value. We live in a world of plenty. You know, the world is burdened by things. And that's what makes clay incredibly magical, I think. You can use it and practice it and hone your skills and decide what forms you like, things like that, indefinitely. And you can recycle the clay over and over again. And you're not adding to the burden that the earth is carrying on her dear shoulders, bless her. That's where reclaim comes in. When I was a beginner potter, I did a lot of research into how to best deal with my reclaim. And what I learned was reclaim is work. It's a lot of work. If you're scrolling pottery on Reddit to try and find the secrets to how to deal with your reclaim, and you're seeing things like use a bathroom tile, use a pillowcase, tie something up, use a clamp, crush your reclaim into particle-sized pieces. You don't need to do that. You can disregard it all because I'm just going to tell you how to do it, and it's real simple. Essentially, you just put water on your clay, and that's it. Video done. Thanks for joining me. I will see you next week. Okay, no, seriously. A quick overview, though, of reclaim before we begin. Reclaim is recycling. Clay recycling. That's what us potters call it. All forms of unfired clay, that is clay that has not gone through the kiln at all, can be recycled forever and ever, which makes it a super sustainable material. If you don't like a pot or you don't find any value in it, then reclaim it and let the clay be what it really wants to be. Okay, let's get going. Let's get going on the reclaim. To start with, you're going to need to prepare for reclaim success. Get a container, a bucket, a tub, even a bag if you're working on a small scale, like an old clay bag, and that's where any of your scraps will go. The best material, I think, for this is plastic because it will not leak when you pour water onto it, which, spoiler alert, we're going to get to that. And also, in my opinion, the size of the tub, the container, matters, okay? We always say size doesn't matter, but I think it does matter in this occasion. Too big, you're never going to deal with it. Too small, you're going to be doing reclaim every day for the rest of your life. You want like a Goldilocks container where you can just do your reclaim at like a reasonable period of time. Whatever that is up to you. Don't get overwhelmed by it either way on that scale. If you use a couple of different types of clay, for example, you're using like an orange terracotta that's low fired and a high fire stoneware, then use two separate containers for that because they're different types of clay. They behave differently. Don't mix them up. You need to put any clay scraps into this container. I put all of my trimmings. I put pots that don't make the cut. I put off cuts and pots that I forgot about and let get too dry into my reclaim. All forms of clay can go into this container. That is wet clay, leather hard clay, bone dry clay. They're kind of the three main ones. They go in there. A little tip, if it's a super big chunk of clay, then I would suggest chopping it or squishing it into smaller pieces so that essentially let the water penetrate into the pores of the clay and help it to slake down. Slaking is the process that clay goes through, which is essentially like the particles relaxing, I suppose, and kind of disintegrating into the water. But if a piece of clay is too big, then you'll have trouble doing that. So just help it along the way. After you've added all your clay to your container, you're going to add water to this container. I save any slops, any throwing water, any slurry, any water that I've washed my hands and my tools in. I keep all of that and I put it into my reclaim. That water is liquid gold, I think, because it contains the smallest of the particles of the clay and it helps to make like a nice robust body when you re-wedge it. However, if you haven't saved any of that, then normal water is fine. Make sure all of the clay is covered by this water or your slops or whatever. You can mix the slops and slops is such a gross word, but you can mix that and your water together so you can like top it up if you don't have enough clay slops. Hot tip at this point, make sure no tools get in your reclaim. You're going to get your hands in there at a later point and you're going to be squishing around, and hidden tools can cause mega injuries. Avoid it. Avoid it at all costs. Once the container is full of clay and full of water, let it soak at least overnight, or, oh, the sun's come out. Let it soak overnight, or I like to leave it for like up to a week. I think it makes really nice reclaim after letting it sit for a minute. If there's any water pulled on top of the reclaim, then get a sponge and just lay it on top, and then you can squeeze out that water. And after that, give it a good old squish around. Get your hands in there, really squeeze it up, get that clay moving around, mix it up. Some potters use a drill with a paint stirrer for this, but I think, you know, I've got God-given paint stirrers here, my hands. I get in there. And I also kind of like to feel the clay. You know, sometimes you can feel if there's like a harder bit or a softer bit or like a, you know, super wet bit, and you can just kind of mix it up. So I like to do this whole thing in the morning so that I can kind of keep an eye on it throughout the day. Now, you want to plop it out onto a plaster bat. Plaster wicks the water away from the clay, and so it helps it to dry out. Put your bats onto something, be it a plastic sheet or some like kiln prop, something like that. I didn't do that for this video. Sorry about that. However, do that because any surface that it's on is going to also soak up that water. So if you're on like a wooden bench top or something, then it can go moldy and it can mark your tables. Not nice. So pop it up on something or seal that from the water. Anyway, so plop all your clay out, place it out onto the bats, and then smooth it out. And then I kind of like to get my fingers in there again and squash little holes in it. Like it's the most disgusting focaccia bread that you've ever seen. Get your hands in there. This will help with airflow. Side note, if you don't have a plaster bat in your studio because you're working at a smaller scale, you can use a wooden board with some canvas laid over top, and that will do the same thing but slower. It also kind of strays into the path of slightly overcomplicating things, which I'm trying to avoid in this video, to tell you the truth. If you want to make yourself a plaster bat, then this is the video linked here. Look around your studio if you're in a shared space, and I'm sure there's something plaster that you can use. The canvas and wood situation will work, it will just take longer. Now you're going to leave the clay on the bat for a bit, and a bit is very subjective. Depends how warm your studio is, if it's winter, if it's summer, if it's humid. There's so many different factors that will affect this. The beauty of reclaim is that you can kind of control the moisture level. So if you're looking for really soft clay to make a plate or something, or you're looking for something a little bit harder so that you can make some sturdy slabs, whatever it is, then you can decide when you want to flip your reclaim over and wedge it up. If you have to leave it overnight, which is, you know, very common, make sure you just drape some plastic over top of it so that it doesn't dry out too much and go over the edge. Once it's dry enough to peel off the bat, I want you to pick it up, peel it off, and flip it over so that the other side gets a chance to be dried out a little bit by the plaster. Once that side also peels up, then you can roll the whole thing up and it's ready to wedge. Note, if you have a pug mill, you should know how to wedge regardless. If you don't know, then you should keep watching. If you do know, you can mentally switch off now. However, please keep watching the video because it's great for my engagement. Thank you, I appreciate it. I want you to know though that I resent you a little bit, but it's only because of jealousy. I want a pug mill, I can't afford one, I don't have the space. Let's move on. Any type of wedging will work. However, my favorite method of wedging for reclaim is the cut and slam method. This method is essentially like you cut the clay in half and then you put it on top of itself, and then you do that again and again and again, and you essentially double the layers of clay every time you do it. Learning this method is great because you can use it not only for reclaim, but if you wanted to like blend two different colors of clay, or if you had a really hard block of clay and you had a really soft block of clay and you wanted to get a beautiful medium softness of clay, then you can blend them together using this technique. I actually had to do that with my reclaim whilst I was filming this video because my reclaim was drying by the window and the one closest to the window dried out way quicker than the one further away. So I just blended them together and got lovely clay at the end. So you want to take your block of clay and cut it in half, and then you're going to slam one half on top of the other. then you're going to turn it 90 degrees, cut it in half, turn it again, and then put that cut half, slam that back onto the other half. It's hard to explain, as you can tell. And also, I do it slightly weird. Like, I've kind of taught myself how to do it in a, I think, like, slightly efficient way. However, it works all the same. Essentially, you want to make sure that you're slamming the layers down on top of each other the same direction every time, so that you double the layers every time. So you're going to start with 2, and then 4, and then 8, and then 16, and then 32, and then 64, etc. So it's exponential growth. I've just started you off there with the amount of layers that you'd get. Each slam pushes any trapped air out to the side, out of the side of the clay, and it slowly just creates this beautiful homogenized, unified block of clay, which is truly some of the nicest clay that you'll ever get to throw with or get to work with. Also, I gotta say that slam wedging is great when you've got to get some emotions out. Have you ever seen an angry potter? Probably not. And it's because potters be slamming. After, I don't know, 50 slams, the clay will look and feel much more unified, and you'll be able to like scrape your fingers down the layers and it will feel kind of as one. I then like to finish off my slam wedging with a spiral wedge just for good measure, and then it's ready to go. You can work with it straight away, or you can put it into some plastic and save it for later. That's it. That's the whole process done. You can leave your pillowcases, you can leave your bathroom tiles, you can leave your clamp, but you can leave all of this at home, please. I don't want to see it in a pottery studio. Unless your studio is at home, different room, I think. Different process. We don't need it. That's that. Hope that helps. If you have any reclaim questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below. If you don't, enjoy reclaiming your clay. Enjoy making loads of pots with the same clay over and over again. And I'll see you next week for another pottery video. In the meantime, you can follow me on the other social medias. I'm at mae.ceramics on everything else. And I post more regularly, more slightly unhinged, I would say. But I'll see you there, and I'll see you next week. Okay, love you, bye.